Hi, everybody, and welcome to this Pi webinar. Great to have so many of you joining us from all parts of the world, as we've seen. It was quite fun trying to get everyone to say Aberystwyth, but a nod to the Welsh contingent here. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists. We've got a really interesting hour coming up. We are talking about 2021 proof virtual recruitment and Campus Tours VR. It's going to be very exciting. We have joining us Cara Quo. She is Admissions Program Manager at Fordham University Gabelli Business School. Welcome. We have Douglas Harrington, Admissions Counsellor at Binghamton University. We have Monica Stam, who's International Recruitment Manager at California State Long Beach. And last but not least, Gavin Newton-Tanzer, who's founder and president of Campus360 and Sunrise, which is an organisation many of you know working in localization in China and XR. So thanks, everyone. I'm really looking forward to learning more about virtual reality, something I don't know much about in terms of international education recruitment. Gavin, I thought I'd come over to you first to say, tell us a bit more about VR and when did you launch Campus 360 and why?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us. XR, I think, has really kind of come into its own, but we started seeing it actually with the emergence of everyone's been hearing about 5G technology. I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we actually started just seeing heavy investment in China. And we were like, you know what, this is something we should try to allow international students to be able to visit campuses, because already it's difficult for them to travel overseas all the time and really get exposure to the campuses that they want to go to, especially those that might be out of cities or slightly off the beaten path. And so we built Campus 360 at that time, focusing on a web-based concept. I don't want to get too distracted here, but one of the biggest reasons why we talk about 5G and why we talk about it being possible now is because just like during the pandemic, we can all have these kind of presentations online. Now we're also able to stream content. So we can watch Netflix, we can stream YouTube, but we can also now stream VR images, which are just basically really, really big photo and video files. And so because of that, you can now have these tours as a viable option on a cell phone, on a iPad, on a computer in a way that wasn't possible even just 2 or 3 years ago. So that's just been kind of really cool to watch.
Excellent. And are you going to be able to give us a demo? I thought we could dive straight in and you could try and give everyone who's tuning
so
in.
I mean, I'm certainly happy to do that. So let me go ahead and share screen, share my entire screen. Yeah.
I feel like we can't talk about VR without seeing it, right?
Let's take a quick dive into, so we've got Fordham and along with Binghamton with us here today. So we're going to go ahead and share Fordham and Binghamton's campuses. Let's actually start from the very beginning, but this gives you an idea of what it looks like. And so we're looking at VR now in the context of a web browser, but you can just as easily experience this on a cell phone. So for anyone who wants to see a cell phone or has a tablet, or of course, if you have a VR headset, please feel free to follow along. And what you're able to do is interact with either different locations, so we can teleport to specific places that we want to go. Individual students can look around. They can open up individual stories that they want to see. So you can integrate really cool pop-up bubbles that people can enlarge. Or if you want to see fun things, you want to hear, I believe Doug is on recorded in some of these. You can actually click on the audio and hear students or representatives actually talk to you and take you through that. Another big part is some people like to navigate by theme or by story. And so they can actually navigate by specific items that they care about. So maybe you care about whether there's kosher options in the cafeteria, or maybe what's a little bit more important to you is a little bit about safety on campus. And you can actually navigate through campus based on certain themes or stories that you'd like to go into. Of course, for those that do go on campus, it's integrated directly into Google Analytics, and it allows people also to, if they want, either schedule a visit directly with the institution itself, or to actually contact the institution directly if that's what they want to do. Or, of course, you can see here with Binghamton where you actually have it embedded on the campus website. So it's actually embedded inside the school's page directly. So lots of interesting things that can be done. Fordham also, just give Fordham a little bit of love. I think one of the things I loved about this campus, and Cara can talk more about it in a little bit, is that you really can show off the city. And I think that's something that's quite unique to a campus in the city. Really need to be able to see sort of what that's like and really be able to experience it. But a couple other fun ways that it's being shared now. So you can actually engage social media content, VR content directly in social. So for anyone who hasn't done this yet, it's a really cool opportunity to take some of those VR content images and actually share them directly in boosted Facebook posts. So it's a really neat, new tool. In the same way you can leverage panoramas, you can actually go ahead and do an entire boosted campaign showing off a new lab or a new campus or facility on campus, which can be really awesome. So definitely recommend people take a look at that. And it's not just videos. It's not just 360 images, but it's also videos as well. And so this is, of course, during a pandemic, not necessarily a viable option, but you can see how we can actually have show off videos. So this is actually a 360 video embedded inside of the tour where students can actually either be on campus, or maybe I show something that we all kind of miss, maybe something like student life. And so you can actually have students that are having sort of a party on campus or a student activity or a club on campus, actually being able to sort of show that in a sort of more interesting way. You can also show off like different types of labs and those as a video context as well. So it's just really neat to kind of see how all of that works. One last thing that I do like to show, and this is, I guess, the last thing I'll say before I kind of let everyone have a chance to speak, is what's brand new and I think very relevant to this segment, which is now you can actually create interactive live streamed events inside your VR tour. This is brand new tech, basically similar to what we're doing now with like a shared web-based platform. You can actually invite students inside of your tour, and then they can actually come with you with a student ambassador or a guide and walk through campus. Just doing, again, a quick little demo here of what that would look like. And then individual students can actually get exposure to whatever it is that you want to share inside of the tour, talking to each other, sharing with each other. Obviously now I'm presenting to myself, but you get an idea of what that would look like. And you can take them with a live guide to different segments on campus, which is kind of really exciting. So just cool to see all the new developments that are happening now.
Yeah.
That you can keep in mind.
I agree. I think that's really cool. And just to make it clear for everyone watching, so that because you showed me this last week, Gavin, that last sort of tool is essentially live stream VR. So that's
exactly right.
Yeah, you'd be inside guiding them.
Live stream VR was not possible until web-based VR was possible. So that wasn't possible about 2 years ago, and now it's finally possible. So any individual rep could be in a tour, taking them to different campuses with students all around the world, or having student ambassadors do it. So it's kind of exciting to see.
It does sound exciting. I know there's lots of people watching. Do use the question function at the bottom if you would like to ask questions. I'm sure that you might have technical questions or just interesting sort of implementation questions. So do feel free to ask the question function, but I'm going to obviously ask some first, hopefully some of the ones that you're thinking of. The first big one is when it comes to VR, which does seem really cool, what do you need to actually implement it? That's for you, Gavin.
Oh, okay. I want to eventually let them speak as well. But implementing VR these days is really easy. So I'd suggest anyone who hasn't already to get their hands on a VR camera. You can buy a VR camera now for $400. Actually, you can get them for $100, but not a very good one. So you can just get one on Amazon and start playing with it. And these are things I think you're going to start seeing at college fairs when we finally go back on campus. You're going to start, or going back to live events, you're going to see people with like these little adapters on phones that are basically VR cameras, and you can take VR images, share them up to Facebook with a one click. It's really cool. Doesn't require anything aside from buying those little cameras yourselves. Obviously, if you want to do something a little bit more sophisticated, like actually doing like a virtual campus tour, that takes a lot more planning. You got to get someone on campus to film or do it yourself. You got to pick the locations you want to go to. You got to write stories and content and figure out how you're going to share it with students. And that's a whole other thing that I believe either of my co-panelists can tell you more about.
Well, that's a good segue over. Carl, let's come to you first. Tell us about your experience of creating the VR tour and then embedding it within your website and how it's been working with students. I think it's fairly new, but tell us about your experience.
Yeah, our experience has been great. We didn't have a virtual tour before, and we have about 80% of our international students for our MS program, our Masters of Science program. They're all abroad, and they don't even step foot on campus, some of them, until the day one of orientation. So it was really important for us to bring New York City and bring our campus to them if possible. And we've been looking to do a tour for so long, and this was such a great way. You can see the entire city this way. You can see the energy of the city on the streets and the restaurants and the stores. And we really wanted to be able to do that for our student population, many of them who are abroad, even people who are, might not be able to get to the city. So we thought that, this was a really great way to do it. It's been great so far. We haven't fully launched. I'm still in the process of writing some of the stories, but we've gotten some good feedback so far.
So how are you using it at the moment? Are you sending the link to students who are asking for more information or to get a sense?
Yeah, so I think when we launch, officially launch, we'll be putting it into an email to prospective students, as well as posting on social media and putting it on our website. I think those are some of the ways that we'll be launching. And
will you be using it for US and international students? So is this a tool for everyone, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It's going to be on our website. It's going to be accessible to everybody. We have a large international population, but we also do have a good amount of domestic students as well that come from the West Coast, that come from all over the United States. So we think it'll be, really helpful to everybody to be able to see the city and to be able to see our campus.
Great. I've got questions piling in already, so I'm going to read them while I go over to you, Doug. Tell us about your experience. Why did you decide that you needed a VR tour? Did it feel like a bit new and exciting, or was everyone in your whole department pushing for this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we were also in a similar boat where our undergraduate admissions didn't have a virtual tour. It's something that I started working in admissions back in 2017. And one of the very first things that I said is, why don't we have this thing? It's a thing that I think that, I think is necessary, not only, now with the pandemic and everything like that, but even beforehand, because it does allow students from far and wide to come and see your campus. Not everyone has that opportunity to come and visit. Whether it be, financial issues or distance-wise or anything like that, this gives them access, at a moment's notice to see any part of our campus at any given time on their schedule. They don't have to block out hours upon hours or even an entire day to come up and visit. And it's just, really focusing on that access and delivering that campus tour feel to as many students as possible. So, we had worked with Sunrise already on some recruiting in China. So once we found out that they had the Campus360, we decided to move forward with them and go ahead and make our own.
And tell us about the actual process. So did they supply the VR photographer?
Yep. So we had a pretty big team working on this. So we had great communication with the Campus360 team to kind of figure out what we wanted, within the tour, not only the tour, how many stops and stories, and but also, maybe some custom HTML, some walkthroughs, different things like that we're going to have a part of this tour. Once we, kind of agreed upon what we wanted, the whole process moved, at a fairly good pace. We worked on our end, not only the admissions, but we worked with our campus marketing staff to come up with the stories as we've seen.
And just to interrupt you there, but the stories are these pop-ups, aren't they? So you can have sort of information point about anything.
Exactly. Yep. So we figured out. So we have 90 stories in our tour. So we had to come up with 90 different talking and scripts, and come up with pictures or videos along with each one of them. So our campus marketing staff worked very well with that. The admission staff really planned out the tour. That was. I'm actually a former tour guide for Binghamton, so I had a pretty good route in my head already, so that I was able to just kind of lay out. And then the day of filming, so we found a date that worked best for both the university and for Campus360. It was an early day in August. We met our photographer who came down from Buffalo. He was, part of the Campus360 team. They freelanced him or anything like that. Came down, met us from Buffalo. We started about 9 o'clock in the morning. We ended around 7 o'clock that night, going around to the different, the different stops among Binghamton's campus, we have 45 stops. Some of which where we did take multiple pictures depending on where we were. We said, oh, we're not too sure, we're not 100% sure if this one works better here or here. So we took multiple pictures in some spots. And then once Campus 360 actually got us the images back within about 2 weeks or so of actually filming, which was pretty nice to have. And then once we finalized everything, we were able to put it up on our website, I think in November. So just a few months after filming, we got everything finalized. We combed through to see what we wanted to change, if there were any errors, etc. And there's still a few things to wrap up with. Some like I mentioned, the custom HTML, the walkthroughs, everything like that. But the basis of the tour is complete, and we're really excited to continue to use it now in our recruitment.
And so I imagine, because you've got 90 stories and 45 stops, so I imagine you can essentially custom make any VR tour for any group of students. So if you've got students who just want to know about your business school or your law school, you can go straight there, and right? Is that how you imagine using it in a very sort of custom way?
Yep. So to kind of what Gavin alluded to, where how you can kind of jump around based on the different themes and the different stories, we're certainly planning on doing that. Also with the custom walkthroughs that we're kind of is essentially what the walkthrough, and Gavin, you might be able to explain this a little bit better than I can, but how we're imagining is basically getting a group of stops together. So like residential life, because we have a bunch of different residential halls and communities that we decided to highlight on our tour, kind of putting them all together into one kind of video PowerPoint kind of thing. So a student just essentially clicks play, and then we'll learn all about like our residential communities. But I'll let Gavin maybe explain a little bit more.
Basically, a walkthrough allows you to link either stories or locations together with a single button. So you would say have a residential life, like a student life button, basically, when someone presses it and it takes them to the exact locations or stories that are relevant to that life. So I guess, yeah, theoretically, you could have one for anything, depending on what it is, what you want to do. Yeah, I'd probably say the best customization tool would still be live, because then like someone could ask like Doug, like, I don't know, I want to see the gymnasium, and be like, great, we're gonna go there. And things like that.
Great. Listen, because we've got so many questions coming in, I'm going to take the unorthodox step of going to some questions. We can come back, because we do want to talk a bit more widely about other ways to recruit virtually too, but there's lots of questions quite specifically around Campus Tour. So I'm going to take a few of them now. Do keep asking, and that's why you're here after all. So Marty Bennett, hi Marty, has said, what's the advantage of doing a VR campus tour as opposed to a live video campus tour through Instagram or Facebook? So I guess, yeah, the difference between VR just to normally getting a film and phoning, I guess, a film and phone and filming. What do you think, Gavin, onto that?
I think the big difference is immersiveness. I don't know if Doug, if either of you want to, I mean, now that you've seen and used both, I don't know if you have anything you'd say there, but I'd still say the biggest difference is that you can look around everywhere in the same way that we can look around in a real world. So it allows you, instead to have that image to like that box of like perfection, I mean, people get to feel like they're actually there. I think also the fact that you can link them together in an interesting way kind of gives you not a real world experience, but somewhat closer to what you'd experience if you could actually be there. And I'd say finally, at least for the live stream piece, the fact that the student controls what they're looking at, I think makes it a little bit more engaging. Those are just my initial reactions. I don't know if anyone wants to add.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like, in regards to doing like an Instagram live tour or a Facebook live tour, I mean, yes, you get that one-on-one interaction, but you can now get that with the VR streaming. But you have someone walking around with a phone. You might be able to take 45 minutes for your tour and see 5 different things on campus because of the walking in between. It might be a little shaky. You might even get a little motion sickness depending on how good the camera steadiness is. Different things like that. With the VR tour, a student could spend that 45 minutes and see the entire campus. There wouldn't be a different thing, anything that would be left out. You could easily, like again, our tour, just, get through 45 minutes, see every stop, boom, wrap up, and you have even more information than I think you would get on a regular campus tour through like Facebook Live or Instagram Live.
Great. And I guess I'm going to click done answering. If you're watching this on replay, you can go straight to the answers. But Cara, I was interested that you did a lot of filming in New York City itself. I guess that's another advantage that you might not have with a person doing a live.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. It's just that with the VR tour, you can, like, as Gavin said, you can spin around 360, look up at the skyscrapers, see that our campus is right in the middle of the city. And that's really something that we wanted to promote and to show our proximity to different things like Lincoln Center and Central Park and all these famous, great landmarks in the city. And I think that the VR really captures that.
So one more question, and then I'm going to come to Monica, who's been sitting patiently. But how are the students who are engaging? How do you feel? I mean, what's their feedback like around the experience?
Well, we haven't officially launched yet, but I think that we've done a soft launch to a small group of students, and they've all been it's been very positive. They've been looking for this. I think business students really expect this, and I think that this is something that has been a long time coming. So we're really excited.
Excellent. I'm going to ask one more technical question I saw, which is related to VR. Oh, yes. Chris Curl said, can you recommend a good VR camera? Thank you.
So a cheap one you can get from Insta360, like the Insta360 One X, you can get for like $400. The GoPro Fusion is like GoPro's equivalent of that, also around $400. That's like your fun, kind of do-it-yourself sort of fun camera, good entryway. You can also get $100 add-on clip-on to like an iPhone which is kind of fun if you really just want to do something really light. That I wouldn't share that on your university website, but it'd be a good way to. It made a great social media clip. A good entry-level semi-pro camera you can get from Kandao, which is actually a Chinese. Most of these big Insta360 Kandao are all Chinese. They're all made in China. Kandao is a good about $900 to $1,200 camera. You can also get their $1,500 camera a little bit. It's like semi-professional. And then if you, then of course you could start going up to professional cameras, which are upwards of $5,000, $6,000. That's probably. At that point, you might be dealing with a professional team.
All right, thank you. One more question. A couple of people have asked about, yes, Nick Holland said, I saw something with map functions pop up, but it went a bit quickly. Could you recap, please?
Yeah, so that segment, I'm happy to share. I don't want to break the flow too much, but basically every location has Google coordinates integrated directly with that location, so that if someone was theoretically on campus, they can actually open it up on their cell phone and see where they are. Or if they're just online and they actually want to see where something is in Google Google Maps, they can integrate it directly there. So it allows people to have a better sense of direction. It's directly embedded into each image. I'll go ahead and show that very, very quickly. So it's this, there's various buttons that you see in the bottom right-hand corner. And so we made it, actually in previous versions, we had this huge. Now we decided to shrink it a little bit. It allows people to engage and see directly where on campus they are directly with that button. And then of course, turn it off if they'd like. There's other buttons here, like going to full screen, and being able to have additional menu options to share the tour on social, of course, is a big one. So just little things that people might need in that sort of journey.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to have a quick look at our polls at this point and then come on to Monica. But our polls, we're asking you whether you consider VR, also what platforms you're engaging on currently. And given that this webinar is titled Move Over the Zoominar, I'm interested to see that 75% of you find Zoom and other webinar platforms the best way to connect with your students at the moment. This brings me on to Monica. Welcome. It'd be great to hear what you're doing. I know you've got a whole range of ways of reaching out with students. So tell us a bit more about what you're doing to connect with prospective students.
Sure. Hi, Amy. First of all, thank you for having me on the panel. It is a great honor to be here. So as it has been echoed by my colleagues in New York and Gavin, we try at Cal State Long Beach to give students a taste of our campus. And we do that through the utilization of various tools. So currently we don't use Campus360, but our university has something called an interactive interactive map. So the map gives you sort of a bird's eye view of campus. And then it also takes you on a self-guided tour with waypoints stopping at many of the important buildings. And then there's also a part of the interactive map that are helpful for students once they are on campus. It will show you, for example, where the dining halls are, where there's parking lot closures, so where you can park, and then hand sanitizing stations, places where you can get contactless locker. So that's something that's been developed by central marketing. So we do see that the university has an appetite and interest to provide and continue to, cater to, these higher technology, more advanced technology to give students that, feel of the campus, to get them excited about coming to visit once we're able to safely do so again. Something that we like to use that's lower tech is actually developed by one of our previous student assistants. And it's a video tour of the campus, stopping by at many of the critical buildings important to international students. So we often like to play that in the beginning of a fair, and it has really fun music, shows the vibrancy and the diversity of our campus. In addition to that, we have a Cal State Long Beach app that we encourage students to download, and that will include the interactive map. Something else that central marketing does to outreach to domestic students is they'll do 3 live Zoom tours of the campus, so virtual tours of the campus 3 times a week. And that's often led either by a staff member or a student assistant. In addition to that, they do Instagram live tours as well. So it would just be a staff member, showing students, hey, here's the electrical engineering building. This is where students go to class. And this is a nice shaded spot where students like to study. So as you can see, we have, been plugging ourselves into all these different revenue or avenues, trying to, really get students excited and show them not just the Long Beach campus itself, but also, the bus routes and the city around our campus. Since we're only 3 miles away from the beach, we like to really just show all the nice and fun things happening over there.
I was telling Monica I was really jealous of her working at Cal State Long Beach. The name itself is so exciting.
Yes.
Brits like us. But I'm also interested, and I'll come back to Cara and Doug on this too, but you've explained really well what you do once students are sort of in the funnel and engaging and keen to know more. But what do you do to actually get them to engage in the very first place?
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. So we actually, our recruitment team, we cover all the different programs on campus. So for example, we'll recruit for the undergrad program, the graduate program, the language program, and our short-term study program. So with that means we attend all kinds of events and virtual. So ever since March of last year, we've been attending many different online virtual recruitment events. So that's one of the ways where we're getting ourselves out there. We're talking to students who are probably just at the beginning of their college search process and answering a lot of the general questions that they have about studying in the U.S., about the programs that we offer. We also work with agents who host various events online, such as, Facebook Live or Instagram Live events. And in addition, they'll have some in-house recruitment events and platforms that they've developed, and we participate in those. And we also work with government agencies such as Education USA, the State Department, and participate in those type of events as well.
Great.
And then lastly, yeah.
Let me come over to Cara and Doug. So what about you guys in terms of the VR tool is obviously an impactful way of engaging. How else are you sort of getting your message and your university sort of proposition out in the first place? Doug, I'll come to you first.
There we go. Yes. So, we were able to get a pretty good buy-in from the university for this as a necessity, even before the pandemic kind of hit. And then they were like, all right, let's get it up as quickly as possible after the fact. So,
that's interesting. So you were going to do this anyway?
Oh yeah. We had this lined up pre-pandemic. Like we were in talks with Campus360, beforehand, and it just kind of the way it just kind of happened, with everything getting shut down, and we realized the necessity of having the tour a little bit more. So we got really good campus buy-in to have it, and to utilize it as much as possible to recruit not only the international students in China, where we do have a large population of students come from, but also, domestically and getting those out-of-state students as well, being from, we're in New York, recruiting, out in California and Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Texas, wherever, we're able to utilize this functionality. So we got, once the campus understood that we're able to do this now with all this great functionality, we got pretty good support from everyone to get
but what platform, how else are you engaging with students generally? Are you doing agent fairs, or what's working for you? I guess people here, the audience probably would love to hear your tips on what works best.
We do a lot of Zoom. So I know a lot of people, people's favorite functionality is Zoom, and I know the webinar is to get away from Zoom and everything like that. But starting from last spring, we did have a lot of participation from Zoom. We were actually one of the first campuses to utilize Zoom as much as possible, to the way, especially the webinar functionality of Zoom, rather than the meeting functionality. We were able to utilize that a lot. For our virtual open houses, we did faculty webinars, which utilize, we actually just had our first Nobel Prize winning professor on our campus. So we were able to utilize him, even though he was from home. So we had a lot of success with that, and that's what we've kind of run with. But now we're hoping to maybe branch into this live, VR tour. We did some Facebook Live stuff, but a lot of it was, scheduled events through Zoom and everything.
Okay. Cara, what else has worked for you, do you think, since March?
Yeah, I actually wrote down some brief numbers. Our admissions team participated in over 54 vendor events. We had over 400 coffee chats. So that's one-on-one coffee chats with students. And then we participated in 30 synchronous events. So that's panels, ask me anything sessions, live events, and then 23 asynchronous events, which are info sessions, things like financing your education, how to succeed in business. And then 18 MBA and MS, Masters in Science group chats. So that's small groups of students that would sign up. So we've been very busy since the spring.
It sounds like a huge amount of volume. Are you hoping that some of that could be, will VR be another additional thing to offer? Or are you hoping some of them would be watch your VR tour and not need to go on some of the other sort of coffee chats?
I think it'll be a complement. I think they kind of complement each other. I think we love to engage with our students, live through coffee chats and things like that. And, hopefully we can use the live component of the tour as well, but I think they complement each other.
Great. Actually, I'm going to come to you next, Gavin, because I did see a question here. Oh, yeah. Which is, can multiple students or agents use live stream tech on a campus tour at the same time? I thought I'd ask you that first, and then I'm going to ask you about your experience working so closely with China as well. But first,
so for live stream tech, it's meant to be exactly like your experience with Zoom. So it's exactly like what we're using now. So you can have multiple webinar sessions happening led by different people. One person can only lead one at a time, just like you could only have one Zoom meeting on one device at a time. But you can have generally up to 100 people in a single session with it still being relatively stable. The one thing I will say is that VR uses huge bandwidth. And so what you're dealing with is it will be the one limitation. You will need people that do have a reasonably strong enough internet connection. Though these days, because of the pandemic, it does seem like sort of connectivity is almost like a human right these days. And so I think that's increasingly not as much of an issue for those that are looking at international studies seriously. So it's built for multiple people to be talking to each other and engaging, just like they would. It's really modeled after that. I don't know if this happens everywhere, but like in say like US, that on-campus college visit experience with someone guiding you and taking you through campus.
Great. And I was also thinking we could ask you. You obviously work very closely with China, and China is still the biggest market. So tell us more about how your finding students are engaging from China in terms of looking at their options.
Yeah, so I will say one of the biggest challenges, because we initially did build this with the Chinese market in mind, no doubt. And one of the reasons we did that is because we were actually looking at in-person fairs. So no pandemic, it's hard to even imagine this, 2017. And we're realizing kids are kind of playing on their phones. They're not as tuned into in-person fairs. And so we were looking at ways to spice up the in-person experience by making fairs a little more exciting. And we're like, you know what? Okay, we'll load up VR images into the cloud so that people who are at fairs can just hand over a cell phone, or you can hand over one of these little cardboard boxes to kids who can kind of look around and explore campus while they're waiting to talk to you. And so it's just a way to kind of make it a little spicier, a little bit more engaging at an in-person fair. And that was something we were seeing in China as early as 2017. So they were like very, very much kind of ahead in that respect. WeChat and Weibo, two of China's largest social media platforms, have been VR enabled for almost 2 years now. So well before Facebook. And Instagram and TikTok are still not even quite there yet. So it's interesting to see you're actually seeing more of this technology happening in China. One huge downside is, of course, it does have to be locally hosted, both because the files are so big. Think of trying to access normal websites from China to the US is already painful. Accessing huge image files and VR videos is untenable. And so as a result, we actually have a localized server in China just for China, which actually isn't Campus 360, it's 360 Campus. So 360campus.cn, so we can actually host it locally, which is done intentionally so that kids don't get confused and we don't get confused. And kids have a local server with identical content, but in China.
Okay, that's a very important point to mention.
It's important, yes.
Sounds really sensible. Okay, and while you're there, there's another one which definitely for you, I think, Gavin. How much internal resource do universities typically need dedicate to creating a VR tool in terms of staffing and budget, and how easily can they be updated once created, i.e. if you open a new facility?
So internal resources I'll leave to Kara and Doug, because I think they'll know more how many people have been working on it on their side. For budget, it really depends on how big you want to go. So you could do DIY. You could start with like a DIY camera. You buy a $400 camera, even a $100 camera, but probably not a good idea. A $400 camera, maybe a $900 camera. Take some images around campus, and then you can upload them directly to Facebook and just kind of share them there, right? And that would be, or even upload them to like Google Street View for a very low tech sort of open source way of doing it. If you want to have a little more control over the experience, you want to integrate stories, you want to integrate with like Google Maps, and you want to have contact buttons linked to the website, have analytics, blah, blah, blah. Then you're looking probably with us, at least, an intermediate package, which can range from about $10,000 is probably like an entry level package for most people, upwards to say $20,000. And then the big question is whether or not you are filming. So we offer the option for campuses that want to film themselves, or if they want us to send a professional photographer with like a very expensive camera, basically. We have campuses that go both ways. There is advantages to doing it both ways. I think it's really sort of a campus's decision. Do they have like a strong media team on campus? Do they have the ability to get the cameras and things like that? So that would be the bit there. I leave it to Doug and Kara to say sort of how much staffing.
Okay, great. Let's go. Doug, I keep asking you, even though you've got your mic muted. You first. But
oh, no, I just want to make sure, just in case the dog wakes up and starts barking.
So, yeah, what sort of resource was it from Binghamton's perspective in terms of dedicating time and resources?
Yeah, so I was the main point of contact. So we actually had another member of our team who worked closely with Sunrise with the China recruitment and the international stuff until she went on maternity leave. So the project kind of got passed over to me. being the former tour guide and everything like that, and I was more than willing to take it on. So it was me for a large majority of it, for planning, at least planning out the tour, and then we probably had, once we had the tour finalized, creating the story aspect was the large, the one that took the most resources. There was probably 2 other people in our office, plus at least 2 people in our communication and marketing team that were working on creating the scripts and finding the right pictures and everything like that. And then we had another member of our team who helped set up, who was kind of the campus liaison, who kind of helped set up, like, hey, we're going to be at this stop at this time, like just letting you know, just so you're not questioning anything. So we had a good, 6 to 7 people working on it throughout the process, not including all the senior staff who I had to present it to and like get approval from. Be a solid 6 to 7 amount of people who worked on it at any given time. Okay, great. I've just noticed that 2 people have commented under this question. Yes, cost structure, please. So I guess a lot of people are keen to know the sort of outlay versus the results. Cara, what's right from your side?
Yeah, kind of similar. I'm the point of contact, and I worked with the director of admissions, just kind of to do a walkthrough in terms of what the locations we needed. And then from that point, I've pretty much done most of the organizing of the pictures. And then I did the film, I helped with the filming, and mine's a little bit different with the story aspect. I've been writing most of them, finding all the pictures. What was I going to say? So it's been a little bit different. It's mostly, but I think it's because we're just one business school. Binghamton is like a big university. This is just the Gabelli Business School at Fordham, so it's a little bit smaller in terms of the number of stories that we need. I think it would depend on how big your school is in terms of what you need for that.
Okay, thank you.
So the second bit of that question was, how easy is it to modify? Just to chime in, I forgot to mention that. Super easy. The answer is the reason it's built in a web-based system, kind of like how Google Docs is easier to update than, say, Microsoft Word. We cut something out, pop something in, take down a story, add a new one in. It's meant to be able to be cut in any place at any time. Great.
I'm interested, Gavin. Do you have lots of institutions coming to you saying, we want this? Is it still a very nascent tech? Are you expecting it to be really popular? This is sort of nodding to one of the other questions I see, which is, how common are they, or how common does the panel think they will become? So I'm interested in your thoughts.
I think XR is here to stay. I think the tech is getting better by leaps and bounds every single year. So we organize a conference in China every year called the Augmented World Expo. And it went from a couple hundred people to now 3,000-4,000 people. We have an Echo conference in the States, which is now like 8,000 people. XR tech's just exploding. So now, I mean, for example, if I told people, have you ever used a virtual reality headset? And now people have probably heard of maybe the Oculus Quest or the Quest 2, or maybe they've played Beat Saber. And this is I think, going to grow in speed. Now, increasingly, another side of this tech, which we haven't talked about today, is augmented reality. And we are already seeing that take off as well in the form of filters on Snapchat, on TikTok, on Instagram. And I think you're going to see huge progression in AR as well over the next, say, 2, 3, 4 years. So I think we're just at the very, very tip of the iceberg of what this is going to be. And it's really exciting. So we're kind of looking constantly at, okay, what are the breakthroughs in tech and how does it apply to university admissions? And that's something, I mean, Kara and Doug and any of the schools we work with can tell you, we're constantly updating the back end because the tech is constantly changing. And we can, because it's a cloud-based solution, we literally just did a massive update like a month ago where we can just change the entire interface by pushing a major push to the back end, which is kind of cool. And that's something I think they should expect. As to how common they are, hard for me to say. I don't know. Don't know if any of the other 3 panelists have ideas.
Well, let me click on answering on that. So, but come to the other 3 of you, because I'd like to hear your thoughts. Monica, let's come back to you. I mean, this is part of a bigger question I had anyway, which is recruitment as it was is never going to be the same again, right? I think we can all agree that. So what do you think is going to be the new normal in terms of how you try and engage with students virtually?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Amy. So as you said, when we come back, when it's safe to do so, again, we do believe that the travel will pick up, and so we'll be able to meet with students again and talk to them face to face. I think even though it's so easy and convenient to use all the virtual technology to dial into the meetings, it doesn't replace that person-to-person connection that you form at a fair, and meeting students and trying to guide them through that process. So we're excited to have that pick up again when it's safe to do so. But I believe that now that we've had this entire year of practicing using multiple different platforms, we've really just honed and sharpened our skills in using the different technologies for virtual recruitment. So that's for sure is going to be a very important tool that we'll continue to utilize. So before, virtual recruiting wasn't something that everyone did, but now I think, everyone is going to for sure include that into their recruitment plan and continue to utilize that.
And I wonder whether the challenge is going to be trying to take some of the heavy lifting away from virtual recruitment. I mean, Cara, that whole list of coffee chats, I mean, I guess that's one of the challenges, right? To try and streamline how you engage and get everyone together. So
right. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with Monica. I think it is here to stay. I think we are looking forward to going back to traveling and to meeting people in person. There's nothing that can replace it, but I do think that virtual engagement is here. We've been able to be successful with it. We've been able to still reach out to our students that way. And I think it's proven to be, successful. So I think we will continue doing that in some form.
Are there any nationalities of students who particularly seem to engage well or be very keen to get to grips with, live stream or Zoominars? Any particular nationalities where it seems to work particularly well? Anyone got any thoughts?
I think, just students from all over. I mean, we're able to, with how we're able to reach out now virtually, not only with Zoom, but, with Campus360 and everything like that. I think, a large population of students from everywhere, I'm just trying to think of going back from some of the info sessions that I've done, just normal Zoom info sessions. I've seen people from Brazil or, South Africa, India, China, North Korea. They're engaging from all over, which is really great to see. That students, even though with everything going on, that they're still interested and still, they still want to come to the United States to study, and then we're able to engage them and interact with them through these virtual platforms, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, quick question just from me, from my journalist hat on, but how are enrollments tracking? What can you tell me about the sort of volume of applications compared to this time last year? Monica, let's come to you first.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So we're still definitely seeing a lot of interest and organic interest coming from students. So, for example, we get over 200 emails in our inbox a day that we try to respond to. In addition to that, we do have a way where we track students through our system using Salesforce. They use PeopleSoft. So that's how we know and understand where the students came from, understanding that path, how we meet them and when they get admitted. But yeah, the interest is still out there, and we do get a lot of inquiries coming through from our agents as well. So those, in many ways, have been qualified leads. So they understand that what programs we offer, what tuitions, what deadlines, and then they come to us with very specific questions. So we're hoping that by doing more virtual events and different types of outreach, that we'll even get more interest from regions where we currently don't get a lot of students. So we're definitely looking at other exploratory markets and how we can use the different tools we have to and micro conversion and get the students to come through our pipeline.
I think that's two really interesting points. Micro conversion. So this whole focus on improving conversion. I've seen a lot of conversations around that this year. But the idea that you can recruit in a way more holistic way, in fact, reaching students from parts of the world or parts of even China, like you might know what I'm talking about, Gavin, but people can be far more small in the way they approach markets, actually, rather than just going to one city and doing one student fair. Cara, what would you say on sort of where enrollments or inquiries are in terms of this time last year?
Yeah, our enrollments are about the same, I guess. As I said before, we have a large international population, and I think this year we're seeing maybe a bit more of the domestic applicants, which is understandable. But we are around round 4 schools, so we will probably have a better idea of where what our enrollment looks like, maybe February, March. But as of right now, it's looking okay. It's looking steady.
That's good. Any thoughts on the new administration and how that might impact as students are looking at the US? I was just saying before we went live, I think Amanda Gorman is like the best role model now from modern America. Good. Let's get to a few more questions. We've got about 10 minutes left. So we've got a bit of time to get to some more questions. One about cost. I think we've already covered that. Is the creation of these tools limited to US institutions, or is it possible for Campus360 to come to schools elsewhere, i.e. in the UK? Can you?
Absolutely. We actually do have other schools from Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand. Actually, we just had a filming team in Saudi Arabia filming Kaust. So we have everyone and everywhere. And if for whatever reason we couldn't make it to your campus, we can teach you how to do it, which is always an option.
Great. And then associated to that, I saw one. Oh yeah, for other colleges or universities who have more than one campus that are using Campus360, Jen, you call it.
I think almost certainly. I think there's two ways that could be approached. It could either be one tour. I mean, I guess it's functioning the same way as you would think of a map or however you deal with institutions. Sometimes it's a school that maybe has like a city campus, but also sort of a more regional campus. Maybe they're included in the same tour. Maybe they're not. One of the cool things about a tour is this gets a little technical, but basically the embed code can be put into different pages starting on different parts of the tour. So there is no real first part of the tour. You could start a tour in a dorm room. You could start a tour in the fitness center. It's really up to you where that link starts, because everything else is just arrows and stories, and you can teleport. So you could theoretically have one tour, but then on one website, it's open to the embed of one campus location, and then another open to the location of another. We even have, with some institutions, they're like even departments, they don't want to show the entire tour, they just want to show their labs. And so then they can use the embed code to show off the lab embedded into a page of that lab's page. So there's different ways they can be done. And that's actually one of the cool things about the virtual element, is that you can have that flexibility.
So what it sounds like to me, and let me just remember to click done on that one, but it sounds to me that what's quite powerful about this tech is that you can create very custom mini tours within the VR system for students who are, let's say, about to enroll but want to look at what a lab looks like.
So you could pop in an email, literally, because there's no download, right? So you're literally opening this up in a browser, on a cell phone, on anything. And I encourage those that haven't, just go to campus360.org on your cell phone in a browser and just kind of play around a little bit. You can go anywhere and start anywhere. And so let's say I'm emailing a student, asking me, like, I'm interested about this lab. I could literally just say, check out this, and this, with links directly there. And then they can just click on those links and open directly to those locations. Or we could create like a slideshow, like Doug was talking about, where it's a button that's specifically for a certain type of student. Or you could do, with a very, very big campus, kind of like Binghamton, you could do a live stream tour, allowing people to kind of teleport to locations or visit locations that otherwise wouldn't be accessible or not possible to do in a 30-minute, 45-minute tour. So it's that customizable feel to it. And there's many approaches to customization.
And Doug, is that something you're planning on doing? I got the impression that you were thinking about doing these sort of custom tours. And are you thinking you'll just use email generally to sort of email out to students already in your pipeline to use that?
So we're trying to customize that as much as we possibly can. I mean, we already talked about the walkthroughs, a little bit of a custom HTML to do a little color matching here and there to make, these colors are pink. Which is a fantastic color. But we would like to see it as our Binghamton green. So, small things like that to make it as customizable as possible. And we're mainly sending it out. Well, we did a big launch when we got it up on our website. We sent a big mass email to pretty much everyone in our system. We said, hey, look, we have this new shiny thing that students can, then go on and utilize, and it's embedded right on our website. So it's been good. We are still tweaking it and customizing it a little bit, but that's what we're certainly trying to do, and we've certainly utilized it now, or we're already planning on utilizing it for some spring recruitment events, yield events. We utilized it a little bit in the fall, and we, going back to the multiple campuses, we do have about 4 different campuses in the Binghamton area. We're close together, but we were able to utilize and showcase all of our campuses within the same tour, just structurally. So we're excited on where we're going to be able to take this, especially once we finish it up. And we actually, I know we talked a little bit about the 360 videos. Mm-hmm. We filmed in the middle of a pandemic, so we thought it might be best to kind of hold on to those. So we kind of banked them for when students are kind of back and things are a little bit more back to normal. We actually strategically planned it that we weren't going to have a single person in any one of our pictures, in one of our 360 pictures. And, we actually pulled it off really well, in my opinion. We didn't want to give that mask feel and really date the tour, especially, we're going to continue to use this, 7-8 years down the line. We don't really want people to know when,
right.
Everything like that. So,
another quick question for me on budgets. I mean, if it's too nosy, tell me. But do you think your budgets will be restricted because everyone's operating in a different time? Do you think you'll be expected to do more with less or not? Monica, over to you first for that.
Sure. Yes. Right. So, for us, because our budget is tied to academic affairs, when the number of students that enroll goes down, the budget goes down. But you would think that in that situation, you need more money towards marketing to recruit students. But with that said, our campus leadership does have a strategic plan for 2030 where we would like the out-of-state student number to be at 10%. So there is a strong backing from the campus leadership to continue supporting our efforts, continue working with agents and funds, to pay agents to help us recruit. So there are, they're very open to different strategies and our new plans. So we're very much looking forward to a very robust recruitment year for the next few years. And my boss is actually working on a plan to accomplish that goal.
Great. Cara, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, our budgets have decreased. We have definitely had to do more with less. But as Monica said, I think our leadership team is working hard and trying, and the business school is so important to Fordham, and we bring in a lot of the students for the whole school, so they know that admissions and bringing in, the best quality students is really important. So I think that's important to have that leadership backing behind us.
Absolutely. One more point I thought of when you mentioned agents, Monica, is I suppose there's an element of agent education, maybe. What do you think, Gavin, to helping agents use the VR tech as well?
Along with agencies, I think it's actually been more counselors. For us, but agencies, of course, as well. It depends on the market you're looking at. We have a huge initiative that is actually counselor education. And so we've been doing a lot of work. We've already quite far ahead with this in China, but also we've been working closely with Education USA, which actually I think benefits everyone because they've been deploying this actually at all of their fairs in East Asia. They've been given headsets. I mean, obviously, we don't have in-person fairs at the moment, but when we do, they will actually be using these to allow any campus that is on the platform for students to be able to explore while they're kind of just at an in-person fair, just as sort of a fun waiting tool. And we're working with other organizations as well, just totally to educate counselors that they can actually save campuses that they want to maybe review with a student, or they want to show off certain facilities, things like that. So I'd say agents and counselors, we think about more or less the same way. It's just there to be a free resource for them to use so they can see any campus that they ultimately might want to visit.
That's great. Thanks. Doug, final thoughts from you on what you think will be most effective in the coming 12 months in terms of recruitment, armchair recruitment?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I definitely think utilizing, pretty much every tool that we have at our disposal. We are probably going to see a budget decrease, everything like that. And it's, I think it's great that we already have this established, that we're going to be able to utilize it, through the next year or so, for that specific armchair recruitment. We're excited to break into the new technologies, with the live VR. I know Keaton, Gavin, and I have talked about AR stuff. So we're really excited to see not only what we already have, but also see where, all the new technologies that we're certainly want to be involved in and want to jump on to help with that armchair recruitment.
That's great. Well, I'd love to revisit this topic in maybe 6 months. We can talk AR. You can tell us how your VR has gone so far. But we are at time. So thank you so much for joining us, Monica, Gavin, Cara, Douglas. And to all of you out there, thank you for joining our webinar. It's been really interesting. We will send around links to Campus360 so you can have a play yourself. But meanwhile, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you.
One last thing, if I might chime in, we will allow people to play in the live space. We're going to just make a fake sort of fun little live space. I'll pick either Fordham or Binghamton for fun. And you guys can come and check it out. I put the link here in the link inside the chat, so copy it, because after we're gone.
I'll send it to everyone too.
Oh, okay. And I'll be there for the next, 10, 15 minutes if anyone wants to log in and explore.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Gavin. It's been a real interesting hour. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, everyone, and see you soon.
Thanks so much.